Good afternoon. You're watching Business World Live. I'm Jess De Los Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Wednesday. All right, local shares continue their advance today, inching closer to 6,500. The main index climbed 0.8% to 6,497. This is COVID-19 cases in the country saw a decline yesterday. That dropped to 5,867 after 4 consecutive days of surpassing the 7,000 mark, even reaching 8,000, the highest on record yet. Now, another development, though, more vaccines arrived today. That's 400,000 doses of donated Sinovac shots from China. That adds to the 600,000 doses they initially donated, bringing their total donations to the country at 1 million doses. The government is also expecting some 900,000 doses from the COVAX facility in the coming weeks. But zooming out a bit on the economic front, some reassuring words here from Central Bank Governor Ben Diokno. In a media briefing, he said the country has scope to actually maintain support for the country's economic recovery. He added that the current inflation spike need not trigger an exit from policy stimulus. The BSP governor said there are non-monetary measures that the government can do and is doing to address supply issues. Now, zeroing in on the markets, let's first jump into REITs. Today being, of course, the debut of Double Dragon's REIT or DDMP, this year's first listing. The 14.7 billion peso IPO rose as much as 5.8% earlier. That's to 2 pesos and 38 centavos, but ended the day back to where it started, capping its day one flat at its IPO price of 2 pesos and 25 centavos. This bucks the trend seen in Egyptia's past 2 IPOs, which both saw stellar first day gains. The REIT IPO had a record 12,073 investors after it postponed by a day its listing, as over 50,000 investors applied to the IPO. But while DDMP capped the day unchanged, the country's maiden REIT IPO, REIT edged higher today by 0.6%. REIT is boosting dividends as it names 10 properties to be part of its 15 billion peso share swap with Ayala Land. That's for a total of 205,000 square meters of leasable space, majority of which are office leasing properties, including Vertis North in Quezon City, and other developments in Makati, Alabang, Laguna, Bacolod, and Negros Occidental. Now, if approved by shareholders, the transaction should increase REIT's common shares to 1.5 billion from 1.02 billion previously, where Ayala Land owns around 66% of the total. REIT today lifted after that news, now priced at 33 apiece. Now, lastly, a quick check on one stock, that's going to be Puregold. The grocer bucking losses in 2020 as the net income grew 18.9% to 8.05 billion pesos. That's from 6.77 billion pesos in 2019. Operating income also jumped 18% to 13.4 billion pesos, with net sales also higher by 9.2% to 168.6 billion. Now, 73% of revenue still, of course, from Puregold stores, 27% coming from S&R and S&R New York style pizza stores, with same-store sales growth at 2.4% and 8.7% respectively. Now, Chairman Lucio Ko said they are committed to drive sustainable growth in 2020 through continued store expansions and innovations, with the Puregold Group already 469 stores strong. Puregold now at 40 pesos and 45 centavos a share, with a 1.13% bump up today. Restaurants and food services have yet to recover from 2020's hits, and now they have to endure another 2 weeks of limited activity. How might this impact their recovery? To talk about that, we have RestoPH President Eric Teng. Good afternoon, Sir Eric.
Good afternoon.
All right, sir, let's kick things off first. How are restaurants coping so far with this new policy? Or is this something that you've been pretty much accustomed to coming off from last year's restrictions?
Sadly, we're getting accustomed to it. We're not supposed to. We're supposed to have some sort of normalcy by this time. And just something that's important, but I think it's necessary in order to, protect public safety. We're just concerned that it really will close a lot of restaurants, in a very difficult situation like this.
Now, one interesting thing though is that this time around there's a bit of a leeway here coming from authorities. In fact, they are allowing alfresco dining and of course the usual food delivery and dining out services. But going alfresco, how realistic is this for majority of restaurants?
Less than 20% of restaurants would have access to alfresco space or outdoor dining. Plus, we're not traditionally a country that's accustomed to alfresco dining. It's quite uncomfortable in the summer heat, and it's not nice during the rainy season. So the landlords, the malls, the restaurants, they had to almost overnight create some sort of accommodations for outdoor dining, and we're happy to see the public, start to get used to some of the facilities being offered.
Now, just to clarify, that 20% that you did mention, that is of course within NCR, within the NCR plus area.
Yes, the difficulty currently we observe is for the NCR area. In many places outside of NCR, things look a lot better. The mall traffic, restaurant traffic, consumption is a lot better than the NCR region. That's, I think, because of course, our higher COVID numbers in the NCR.
Now, Sir Eric, at the same time, I would like to know how much losses are you projecting from this 2-week bubble period?
Well, sales drop would be anywhere from 70 to 80%. Simply because a lot of restaurants could no longer accommodate alfresco dining or would have any significant role with delivery business. So many restaurants are forced to hibernate for this next 2 weeks. We're just hoping that by April 4th, we will be able to open freely, to recover from a very difficult first quarter.
But that remains to be seen. How ready are you should this be extended beyond April 4? Or in a way, could you afford a revert to MECQ?
We couldn't afford the current shutdown. We couldn't afford the current restrictions. Those who survived last year were survivors. This doesn't mean that we are in a place where we're happy or in a place where we can recover fast from. It would still take a lot of time. The problem here is that there's a public fear. I mean, we might unnecessarily create a fear for indoor dining for the public. I don't want that stigma to be there for after we open. We want people to go back to normal and dine in their favorite restaurants.
So there is a fear that this stigma might actually extend even without the bubble.
Yeah, I'm quite concerned about that. So it will take a lot of communications for restaurants to their customers to remind them that restaurants are actually safe zones. The malls are safe zones. Last year, when restaurant sales went up, when mall traffic went up, when foot traffic went up, we saw a decline in new cases. It's ironic that now, when there's less business in the restaurant due to the age restrictions, that's when we see an increase in cases.
Eric, do we have a figure as to how many restaurants have closed so far due to the pandemic?
Unfortunately, it's very hard to keep track of the numbers. We're looking at the national level, not just for NCR. We do know that 45% of the restaurants in the country are in the NCR region, and about 45, 44% are in the malls. My concern is really for the independent small restaurants who we cannot keep track of how many of them will survive. So many neighborhoods, when you drive around Metro Manila or with the usual nightlife places, you're going to see empty shops now. And I don't see them coming back there to open restaurants very soon.
Okay, now just last 2 questions here. How much in losses did the restaurant sector incur over the past year?
It's hard to quantify. It's more of livelihood loss, business loss, generations of hard work. Restaurants you grew up with, they're no longer there. We would choose not to believe that half the restaurants will close down, but sadly, yes, we've been looking, closely. It seems we're approaching that or getting past that number.
Now, I know you did mention earlier that you're still in wait and see mode basically, but how are things looking into this year? What's your outlook for 2021?
Well, what we discussed with our membership is that last year was very difficult. Last year was probably the worst case scenario because this year we already have the vaccines coming in. The secret really is to get as many people vaccinated as fast as possible. People talk about the new normal, but we're always looking at the old normal, getting back to our old way of life as a measure of normal. And to get that, we really need to get as many people vaccinated as fast as possible. Um, how consumption patterns will change really would be dependent on how we control the virus with this vaccine.
All right. I mean, we're one, of course, with the sector hoping that, the industry would at least see somehow a recovery for the rest of the year. Thank you very much for your time with us this afternoon. RestoPH President Eric Teng.
Thank you.
And those are the biggest news this trading day, March 24, 2021. Catch Business World live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jess De Los Santos. We are One News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.